Well, good afternoon. I particularly enjoyed last night's chat with Mitch from Twitter, better known as Team Stockdale. You can find him on Twitter as at Team Stockdale. This morning, very pleased to get confirmation from Dr. Richard Leo that he is going to join me for a live chat on, of all dates, July the 4th. That will be at 4 o'clock Pacific time. So, unfortunately, midnight in the UK, but 4 o'clock Pacific time, which is 6 o'clock Central time, which means that the dude can join us. Should be a good time as well for Australia. Hopefully, Mark and Tracy will join in the panel. Very kindly, the dude has agreed to host that live chat with Dr. Richard Leo. Hi, Linda. So look forward to that. Thinking behind asking the dude to host. Firstly, he won't have any issues with putting anything up on screen when there's a large panel of people, which I did have trouble with during either with my live over the weekend. Obviously, there comes a point when the laptop here struggles with those sort of issues. So anyway, the dude has very kindly agreed to host. So I'll look forward to, let's say, the 4th of July, 4 o'clock on Crunch Island, 6 o'clock Central Time. That'll be midnight in the UK, but I believe 9 o'clock in the morning for Australian viewers. We'll have a chat with Richard Leo. And I think, particularly having looked through his affidavit, I think this is really quite something to have a chance to speak with somebody who made such a difference, and obviously is I think quoted or cited or whatever the word is by Judge Duffin in his original decision, and I think it's important to look at Judge Duffin's original decision, not the political shenanigans that went on after that. Personally, and this is not a criticism of Making a Murderer, but if Making a Murderer hadn't have come out, then I think Brendan would have just been happily released back into society in 2016. Based on Duffin's, I don't think Brad Schimmel would have challenged it at all, but it suddenly became a huge political hot potato once Making a Murderer came out, which is that's just looking at it from 4,000 miles away from across the pond. That's just the way it seems to me. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's not the case. I was fascinated by looking at the Daniel Holtzclaw case. First of all, Mitch was the first to get in touch with me and say, by the way, last night I was quoting it as lion in the den. It's Daniel in the den. And if you just type in Daniel in the den, Daniel Holtzclaw, you will get the, it's about an hour and a half documentary about the case from, I believe it's Michelle Malkin. I should know there was enough mentions of Michelle Malkin throughout the program. I lost count of how many times it kept saying, and this is with Michelle Malkin, and this is with Michelle Malkin. Well, dude, you're going to have to step up your game if you want to compete with Michelle Malkin and mention Eric Ozee every 5 minutes on your show. But anyway, no, that's joking aside, and getting back to all seriousness. What I found interesting was the fact that very early on in my conversations with Herman, I made it quite clear to him. I said, you're probably really surprised. And I said, you have a right to ask of me the question, why is somebody in Galashiels, Scotland, so concerned about what's going on in Manitowoc? And I think we've kind of answered that question enough time. But I did say to him, look, it's not because of Stephen Avery. If it had been you that was facing the same problem, I would be equally supportive of you if you were in Stephen Avery's shoes. And I think it's like we're in a community where all we want is, if you're a bad guy and you've been proven to be a bad guy, then we want the book thrown at you. We don't want to see you outside of prison walls again if you're that bad. But what we do want is we want it to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And if there's doubt, we want to see justice served. And not, well, in the case of Daniel Holtzclaw, I think there was definitely a certain amount of mob rules. And, we can forgive them for jumping on the bandwagon, given the situation that some people find themselves. No wonder if they have the opportunity to, as I say, to jump on the bandwagon, they're going to do so. But, do realize, of course, that, you only need to dig just below the surface of the Daniel Holtzclaw case to see just how bizarre things are. So anyway, Daniel in the Den was the program that I watched this morning, thanks to Mitch alerting me to that fact. And of course, DB Cooper, you're saying you might come on in about 6 months' time. I'm going to hold you to come in on a lot sooner than that because I really want to hear from you. So why not make a date for the weekend of the wrongful conviction weekend in October, maybe sooner, Mr. DB Cooper. I've done as you suggested and followed you on Twitter. So yes, no excuses now. And I really look forward to having a chat with DB Cooper, who has been a very very supportive commenter on the videos, as have a lot of people. But I know that DB is an Everton fan, so him and me, Millbilly, being a Spurs fan, I'm sure they'll get on really well. Anyway, sorry, digressing. I mentioned obviously Dr. Leo. Let me just mention that once more in case you've just joined in. So Dr. Richard Leo is going to join us on the 4th of July on the Dude's channel, the Eric Ose channel. It'll be safer on his channel. Also, just to point out that the Dude is very nearly up to 7,000 subscribers and very nearly up to 2 million views on his videos. So he must be doing something right. He might be deluded when it comes to Captain Crunch, but he's definitely doing something right. So fair play to him. So I think it would be easier on his channel for him to host. And as I say, I'm hoping to have Tracy Keogh join us and Mark, the Hod, and have a look at, as I say, the stuff that I was reading in his affidavit. Absolutely fantastic stuff. So look forward to that. And just nice to eventually meet somebody who's willing to come on and talk on a video chat about his involvement in, well, not just obviously in Brendan's case, but in wrongful convictions in general. As I say, he's definitely somebody who is a renowned expert in forced, coerced, false, wrongful confessions. Unlike Mr. Buckley, what's his name, Jeff Buckley, who was taken. I saw an article where he was. I will go through an article some point in time that deals with is it Zoolander and Wicklander or something like that. Zalewski and Wicklander, who have dropped the Reed technique, and Jeff Buckley was getting all up in arms about it, and they're saying, no, your methods, to use an American term, they suck. So, moving on, just very, very quickly, as I say, the film is called Daniel in the Den, and it's well worth a look. And Mr. Bates, who the dude has been highlighting clips from, is featured heavily in Daniel in the Den. There was a very interesting comment, one that piqued my interest, when they talked about the jury splitting the baby, which I find a rather bizarre comment, given the fact that splitting the baby is a biblical term, comes from the story of King Solomon, who, when confronted with a situation where two women claimed that a baby was theirs, that the other baby had died, and that this baby boy was theirs, he was able to find out who the true mother of the baby was by threatening to split the baby in half and say, there you go, have half each. That's the easiest way to settle it. And of course, the mother who then said, well, no, let her have the baby. I'd rather have the baby live with some other woman than for you to go and cut the baby in half. And that's what King Solomon was obviously expecting, and said, well, you're clearly the mother. Anyway, it's a great story from the Bible, but its significance to the jury splitting its votes was kind of bizarre, because either you're going to go down the line of let's go all in with all of the convictions, all out with all of the convictions. And it really is something I want to ask Dr. Leo. When did America start taking reasonable doubt out of the equation? When did they get to the stage when as I say, to be accused is to lose? We see far too many of these cases where, based on the most frivolous of situations, when you look at the so-called evidence in the Daniel Holtzclaw case, it really does beg a belief. And I asked the question, obviously, to Mitch yesterday as to what the motive was to frame Daniel, and he said that it was simply the fact that there was this movement that wanted something done, that there had been somebody who had put in a complaint to the Oklahoma police about a policeman, and they wanted to be seen to be doing something about it. And so Daniel was the fall guy for all of this. He was the one that they could pin stuff on. And of course, it's as I alluded to Mitch in the video last night, I think it's going to be a tricky situation to try and get Daniel out. I couldn't help thinking about the trial by media and the 4 policemen that shot the guy that had recently come over from Africa, and they got off with shooting an unarmed man with 41 bullets, and yet Daniel gets found guilty of this. I say that to me, that was very much a trial by media, trial by a mob. And I suppose as much as we can feel a certain amount of anger towards the mob who were fueling this, you have to realize why some of these people were jumping on the bandwagon. Anyway, got a little article which I thought was particularly interesting because, as I say, when I first got in touch with Sheriff Herman, I said to him, like I said, what you might be thinking, what you could ask me quite justifiably is, why am I taking an interest in this? And I explained about the fact that, whether it was Stephen Avery, a scrapyard man, whether it's the chief of police, whether it's a policeman, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're out there and you have not been found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, then I think it's up to certain. Well, it's not up to certain people. It should be everybody questioning that. But maybe for those that have got a platform to highlight that kind of injustice, it's important. Anyway, let's just have a quick look at this article. I don't really want to show all the article, certainly not the video at the beginning, but you can always go and check that out. There is at the top of this. Just make sure, as I say, that this is all. Let's make sure that everything is going according to plan. Yep, it would appear so. Okay, so here's the article. I must remember to post the link to Daniel in the Den, the documentary, and also to this article. Accused Oklahoma city police officer is fired by Matt Dinger. There is a video that you can listen to by a guy who, let's put it this way, I certainly wasn't impressed at all. And I totally buy what Captain Paco Balderrama. Paco, you are being used as a political pawn in all of this. I suspect possibly even City Police Chief Bill. I'm not going to say it, but in Italian, the single letter C, as opposed to the double C, is pronounced differently. So the double letter C, in most cases in Italian, is a hard K sound, as in, for example, Moira Dearest and Laura Ricciardi. So the double C is a Rick, a K sound. But in Italian, the single C, as in the song Santa Lucia, C is pronounced more with a ch, so it's spelled chitty. It doesn't take long to get to a sh sound, does it? And I would suggest that his actions are very, very much appropriate with that particular title. But again, one wonders what pressures were brought to bear on the people in authority to do something. Anyway, as it says here, an Oklahoma City police officer accused of sexually assaulting women while on duty has been fired. Daniel Ken Holtzclaw, 28. So this was, I think, 2015, if I remember rightly. Let's just have a look. Yes, January 8th, 2015. Daniel Holtzclaw awaits trial on 36 counts, including 8 counts of rape. He is accused of sexually assaulting 13 women while on duty, most of them in neighborhoods on the city's northeast side. He was fired Thursday. An officer delivered the letter from Oklahoma City Police Chief Bill Iti to Holtzclaw directly. Captain Bakul Balderrama said, "Your offences committed against women in our community constitute the greatest abuse of police authority I have witnessed in my 37 years as a member of this agency." The guy hasn't even gone to trial. He's been accused. Where on earth, Mr. City and Balderrama, where on earth is his presumption of innocence? It just beggars belief. I say it doesn't matter whether we're in support of Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey, a police officer. It doesn't matter to us. It doesn't matter what color they are. It doesn't matter what language they speak. It doesn't matter what background they are. If we see, as a community, if we see a wrongful conviction, we're going to highlight that. And that's really what we're all about. As I say, it's just, to me, it is just a case of there are people in power that want to retain power, and they just don't want to admit to anything being wrong. I think a lot of the time they just love. Well, they want the status quo. They want to preserve what they've managed to build up. They certainly don't want to admit to anything being wrong. It's pretty bizarre, this case. Yeah. So I actually asked, obviously, Mitch that question yesterday, so it's a good question to put out. Do you think Daniel was set up? See, that's the thing, that I mean, that there's really no evidence against him, other than the fact that when you watch the documentary and you realise that the police did go out and seek certain people and get them, the fact that they went out and saw certain people, okay, that's obviously in the prosecution of their job. Obviously, that's where they're going to find, if there is a cop that's behaving badly, that's where I don't have an issue with going out and finding people who could potentially be the sort of people that have been abused in this way. But the fact that they went after these people, and then got them to create stories, and then you've got this famous sort of activists, and everybody just jumps on the bandwagon and comes up with this mad story. And I did get the sense that had Daniel Holtzclaw been found not guilty, then the uneducated mob, who had no idea about a lot of the evidence in this case, they would have reacted very badly to this, which is why this is, as I say, this is gonna have to be dealt with in a sensitive way. Really, it's going to have to be a case of really spell out to everybody exactly what are the problems in this case. Anyway, look, as I say, we're looking forward to chatting with Dr. Leo. Maybe I'll get a chance sometime over the weekend to have a chat with the dude. We're obviously either today or tomorrow, we are looking forward to seeing Kathleen Zellner's response to the state. And as I say, the interesting thing about Daniel Holtzclaw's case is that Kathleen Zellner was involved quite early on after his conviction, with trying to get him free, and only had to sort of bow out to that in order to concentrate fully on the Stephen Avery case. So anyway, we'll catch you all. We'll catch you all again soon. So I'll leave the link to that particular article that I just read out about the being. I mean, that was it. He was dismissed from his job. Well before it went to trial. And the police officer, the chief of police, telling him that basically you're guilty before he's even had a chance to go to trial. Anyway, the other thing was the bizarre, as Michelle, her name was mentioned enough times, Malkin, going through some she called it the trolls, or as we call them, the guilters and the haters. Some of the stuff that they were saying is absolutely ridiculous. But trust me, when you're involved in doing these sort of things, you get it all the time. It's sick stuff, but it's just people who either they don't know the full story, or they have this sort of vested interest in the case. Anyway, I think I've kept you long enough. We'll catch you all again soon, and we'll catch you later. Bye for now.